Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now.
Today, we're introducing Cassie Homsi, a bridge builder between people and technology. As a sales and operations analytics manager at a beverage distribution company in Southern California, Cassie turns complex data into clear, actionable insights and helps teams on both sides of the business actually speak the same language. With nearly 20 years in software engineering, her role is as much about human connection as it is about numbers and systems.
Okay. So I was going to ask, I don't really understand your job. So if you could maybe tell me what your job
Of
is.
course, of course. So my job is sales and operations analytics manager, but underneath that umbrella, it's a bunch of words that don't really mean much. But underneath that umbrella, basically, I'm a technical trainer, right? So I train a lot of our incoming employees on how to use the software that we give them. We give them iPads, we give them iPhones. I make sure that they know how to use the software that's on that device to support them in their role to meet their goals. So that's the technical training aspect. And then on the analytics management side, I gather a bunch of data from how everybody's doing out there in the field with their tools, and I translate that into action. How can we do better? How can we teach something better? How can we set somebody up to understand how and when to use a tool and what processes are experiencing like a bottleneck that we can smooth out.
And can you tell me how you ended up here?
Yeah, yeah. So my background is software engineering.
Okay.
So I spent almost 2 decades doing software engineering in the insurance industry, actually, working for a company based in Texas. And so that gave me a lot of like technical expertise on how to build software and how to manage software that we purchase and bring in-house, but also gave me the opportunity to turn around and teach the employees how to use that software. So that's where the teaching background came from. And then the software engineering just gave me the mindset of like how does software work? How can we optimize it? That was my strong interest in college. I have a computer information systems degree, which is
Mm.
technically under the business school, but it has an emphasis on software engineering. So I get to learn both the business and the technical side, and that sort of dynamic has followed me with all my jobs in terms of yes, I get to do the technical things, but I also am put in a position that I need to translate that to people who are not technical on the business side. So I'm sort of the go-between, the connector between the technical world and the business world.
And that's where UX comes into it, I guess, being empathetic to people who have no knowledge of tech.
Right, right. Being able to sort of translate into the terminology that folks would understand when they don't have that technical background, you know? Yeah, that definitely comes into play, and that puts me in a powerful position to be able to speak to both sides, right? So I can make sure everybody understands each other on both sides of the table, but I can also gather information from either side of the table and make sure I fully understand what they're asking for, right? Because a lot of the times that get lost in translation when you have technical and non-technical folks in the room.
So you would say to somebody who, like, is a newbie, who's, like, just just going into college, you would say, "Emphasize computer science," at the business degree.
Definitely. I think it's powerful and pretty important to understand how technology works. Even if you don't want to work directly with technology, it's going to follow you everywhere. You're going to be reliant on technology. So if you fully understand how it works, what's happening under the hood, it puts you in a position to better communicate this is my needs in a way that translates well into folks who are more technical and are trying to meet those needs for you.
And also because it seems like you're human based, like, you have to communicate to 2 different sides of the aisle. It's unlikely that you'd be replaced by AI.
Right, that's true. Because there are certain things that we know AI can't do, right? there's a human component that's necessary there. Absolutely, I agree.
That's good. Um,
Definitely for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I think everything that Annie and I do can be replaced by AI.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know fully, but I kind of wonder talking about AI, do you see it not necessarily as a replacement because it is a tool, but how does that tool play into or impact what you do currently? And what do you think it might do in the future?
Yeah. So right now we do use AI internally in our company. And like you said, it is a tool. It's not replacing anybody's job fully, right? But it is enhancing how well we can, for instance, analyze the data. If I'm trying to gather information about how well is a salesperson doing in their territory, the AI is going to catch things that maybe I didn't catch, or comprehend it faster and give me suggestions on what I can turn around and do with those results that I didn't think of. But it's not going to fully replace everything that I do. It's just going to enhance and help me do it deeper, faster. It's going to help me. It's going to strengthen what I'm already doing.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a relief. And then what would you say to your younger self? Would you go on the same path that you went on?
I would. You know what? I would. I feel like I've had such a broad scope of experience. Like I said, learned the technical side of things as my background, as my core skill, but I've also learned the business side of things. And I think that's been really important to do. Like I said, to be able to translate and speak to almost anybody in an organization. But the challenge with that, and what I would tell my younger self or anybody else who's sort of starting out and trying to figure out where they want to go with their career is have that approach, have that broad approach, learn everything that interests you and everything that's on the periphery of what you want to do, but make sure you narrow the scope or the definition of what your actual job is, right? Because you don't want to be in a position where your job is so broad that it's hard to do everything or it's hard to define the success of everything. And also, you'd be spread too thin to do it all anyway. So, get that broad exposure to everything from technical to business and everything in between, but make sure that the definition of your job and the definition of success in your role is very specific.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, that's good
So,
advice.
Yeah.
so Cassie, in speaking about that, we touched on the idea of like somebody who's new, kind of entering potentially entering the field. Is it is it s is it okay for somebody to be considering a career pivot into what you do? And if
Oh,
so, what would that need to look like in terms of transferable skills or, a background that might fit really well with this, and what would they need to know in order to go into what you do?
Well, that's a great question. I think, yes, anybody could pivot into the field that I'm doing as long as you're willing to put in the work to sort of pick up, like I said, those broad skills. So that might mean asking somebody if you're on the business side and you want to learn more technical, asking somebody on the technical side to give you some responsibilities or spend some time to coach you on it. While, of course, keeping that boundary that I talked about very tight, because this is something you're learning on the side. You don't want to take on more than the scope of your role, because that creates more problems. Um, but it does require you to sort of stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone, go take on a task, go watch somebody do a certain role, and really learn outside of what your comfort zone is. So yeah, it could be done even if you're doing the other side of things. If you're technical and you want to learn business, in the industry that I'm in right now, it's folks who are out in the field selling beverages to restaurants and chain stores. You could, if you're more in siloed in a technical role, you could ask to ride along with somebody who's a salesperson and really understand the business side of things. And I got an opportunity to do that a lot when I was starting out with the company I am now. And it taught me so much more than I could have ever learned sitting behind a desk to know what really goes into being out there in front of a customer, building that relationship, using the right tool at the right time with somebody right there in front of you. So it can be done, takes a lot of commitment, extra work, but it's always interesting to learn beyond the scope of what you're doing, how other people's jobs impact yours and how your jobs impacts theirs.
Yeah, it sounds like having a natural curiosity has been a great gift to you.
Absolutely. Natural curios follow that curiosity would be my recommendation to somebody who is kind of curious, to follow that curiosity, let it lead you where you want it to lead you, but hold your boundaries very tight.
Ooh, what do you
Yeah.
mean by hold your boundaries? Like,
Yeah, so I had a lot of experience of, following that curiosity and taking on things that were outside of my actual role, right? And so that can lead to a lot of complications in terms of when it's time to define how well did I do in my actual job? Did I spend too much time following that curiosity when I should have been working on things that were actually in the definition of my tasks that I needed to get done? And then also when people start to learn that you do know so many things, they come to ask you for help or they come ask you to, "Hey, can you build this for me?" And that can be good exposure, but it can also take away from, again, what you need to be doing. So you have to have a very tight definition of this is how much time I can dedicate to follow that curiosity while protecting the time that you need to get your core function done.
and so we always ask people what's the absolute best moment you've had in your job. I think we maybe we'll start with what has been the biggest challenge because that sounds like maybe that was it.
Yeah, definitely that was it. The bound setting the boundary because it is something that I do enjoy learning more and more and more. And so it has been a very big challenge for me to say no when I really didn't want to say no and really keep in mind what is going to be the consequence of me taking too much on, putting too much in my basket that I can hold and spreading myself too thin. So I've really had to learn to keep it reasonable and always know that there will be another opportunity down the line and I need to make sure I keep that boundary protected.
And so then we'll just flip it and say what has been like the apex for you in your job, just the best moment ever.
Oh, I feel like, oh, the best moment ever. Yeah, the industry that I'm in now with, beverage distribution is so different than my original industry that I started in. My previous job was in insurance, and so the insurance industry, I worked for them for nearly 2 decades, and then when I switched over to the beverage distribution industry, there was a lot of transferable skills, right? Technology can apply to so many different industries, but when I started in beverage distribution, it gave me a chance to really learn so much that I had never been exposed to before. I got to really see what it was like to have your boots on the ground, being out there in a restaurant selling to a customer or a chain
Mm.
store selling to a customer. That direct exposure to the bottom line of our company, the bread and butter of our company, was really interesting to me, and I just got a lot of opportunity to learn about wine and spirits and non-alcoholic beverages that are exploding right now. I think for my love of learning outside of what I already know, that's been the most joyful part of it is to just soak up everything. That's been the best part.
Can you I'll take this on a little bit of a tangent, but, like, what's the next trend in things that we drink?
What's the next trending? Yeah. Yeah, the non-alcoholics are still exploding. People are moving away from alcohol, in general and making more health conscious choices about how they spend their money and what they put in their bodies. And so there's a lot of companies that are tapping into that and making non-alcoholic drinks that taste just like the original drink. And they're making it without alcohol. They're making it delicious. They're making it look really cool and trendy. And that industry is exploding. So I would say non-alcoholics are still on the rise right now.
Good to know.
Hey, if you want a side gig, Leanne, there you go.
There you go.
Create your own non-alcoholic drink.
Yeah.
Cassie, I was wondering if you might be able to tell us, is there something that people don't really know about your job that you want to myth bust? Is there something they think that is your job, but actually isn't?
Oh, oh, that I like that question. So I would say when we think about the technical training aspect of my job, the part of the job where we have a brand new person who's starting in the company and they don't know anything about the way we do business yet. And I'm sort of the first face that says, "Hey, you've got an iPad in front of you. Let's turn it on. Let's set it up. Let me show you the software on it." It does seem very basic. Let me show you how to get into your email. Let me show you how we, do things administratively here. But it's a lot more than that. It's so much deeper than that. Yes, I want to give them an introduction to all the general tools and then the very sales specific beverage industry tools, but it goes so much deeper than that because it doesn't matter if you have a whole basket full of tools at your disposal. If you don't fully understand how to use them and when to use them and why we use them, you're not making the most of the technology that we have in house. So you might have a tool that's generating data for you that's showing you how well your territory is doing, but can you translate that into action? How do I now turn things around in my territory? How do I recognize where the opportunity is? So there's a big difference between knowing how to use the tool, knowing what buttons to press, and knowing what that tool is telling you. What's the story that it's telling you? What's the opportunity that it's uncovering for you? And how do you translate that into action? That's going to make a huge difference in terms of you meeting your goals at the end of the month, in terms of the business leaving a huge mark in the industry.
Okay. Wow. I'm thinking more about software than I have in the past. But can you talk a little bit about what you see as the next move for you?
Ah, okay. The next move for me, I'd love to continue the work that I do in terms of making sure that everybody at every level knows what tools that we have to use and when to use them. And I'd just like to empower folks to really raise their skills to do the most in their role, right? I think that's a very fulfilling part of my job is when you give somebody the tools to do something that they've never done before and then turn around and grow and climb the ranks in the industry because of that. So that's what I'd like to do.
And what software should people be conversant in to
Yeah.
have a job like yours?
So a lot of the software in our industry is custom built for a given company, but there's a lot of skills behind the use of that software that will help me answer that question, Lan. So any sort of analytical skills that you have, being able to look at numbers and see the patterns in those numbers, see the story that those numbers are telling you based on the patterns there. Those are the types of skills that I would say. So mathematical skills might be it, but really being able to understand where the numbers are coming from, understanding the industry behind those numbers so you can understand why those patterns are happening. I would say that some math and some analytical skills would be very important.
Oh, I'm so bad at math. So I will not be trying to get into your job. But when you say math, I was immediately like, oh no.
Uh-oh.
But what would you say to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps, follow computer science? What is there anything else I should be doing to really get acclimated to your industry?
Yeah. To get acclimated to my industry, it doesn't hurt to know beer, wine, spirits, a little bit about tasting those products or the different types or categories under those umbrellas of products. But really, it's about building relationships when you really come down to it. Even in my position, in a more analytical position, because once you've translated data into a story and you understand what that's telling you to do, you then have to turn around and coach somebody on that and help them help themselves going forward. So being able to work one on one with any given person and understand, oh, this is how this person likes to learn. Maybe their style is a little bit different. Maybe this person's pace is a little bit different. To be able to read people in that way or just spend enough time to build that relationship to understand that person, I think that is an underlying skill that kind of can help in my role in a lot of different roles because we're always having to collaborate with other teammates, other folks in our industry. So I think that that serves not only folks that are trying to look for a role like mine, but in a lot of different roles.
Okay, and serve on the fun side of things. Have you been to liquor tastings or non-alcoholic tasting? Is that something that is part of your job?
So when I first started with this company about 2.5 years ago, it was actually part of the onboarding, not only learning the software side of things, but learning the product. So that was a lot of fun
Yeah, I would think
to
so.
really, yeah, to really taste product, to go through a class where they teach you how to properly taste and read notes and things like that. And then they do offer a lot of opportunities to come back and refine those skills and build on those skills. We have some experts in house that can really teach us how to properly taste and about the different qualities and characteristics of our product. So yeah, that is definitely a fun aspect of my job to be able to get to do that with the team.
I don't know how to properly taste at all. I get a glass of wine and there are notes of chocolate and tobacco or whatever else, and I'm
Yeah,
like, it no.
It just wine, right?
It's just
it's
wine.
good.
I
It tastes good.
It's good, it tastes good.
it tastes good.
I'm
Um,
just wondering, being a woman in a technological field, what's that like for you? Have you experienced anything that, other women might want to know about being a woman in a technological field?
Yeah, I would say that when I was first entering into the technological field, it was very rare to have another woman in the room with you. It was extremely rare. And then you just kind of have to not think about it, just keep moving forward. Thankfully for me, there was a lot of support, no matter what the gender of the person was. Nobody was really cutting anybody down, in my experience. But I would say if that's the case for you, because I know a lot of people have a little bit more of a challenging road to go through. If you do get a lot of folks, questioning why you are where you are or why you're trying to go down that path, is to just leave that behind. Just step right over that and keep going, keep moving forward. Because now I'm seeing more women in leadership roles, in technology leadership roles, and it's very encouraging to see that there has been the a lot of people paving that road, right? And I would say keep going, just keep, if it's something that you really love and that you're really interested in. It can be intimidating, especially when you don't see a lot of folks that look like you or that are other women in the room, but it's important to not give up. You don't want to regret not ever chasing that dream, so keep moving forward.
what do you think changed? Was there more people entering or more women entering tech or more hiring of tech
Oh,
women?
I feel like there's been more women entering tech over the years. Definitely. Yeah.
That's
I feel like in the beginning it was just not something that women maybe they chose another path because, there's a lot of road bumps in their way. And I feel like as they're seeing women ahead of them go down it and they're getting opportunities to maybe connect with those women, be mentored by those women, be led by those women, they're seeing that it can be done, and they're getting a lot of maybe support and encouragement to just keep going and not give up.
Is mentoring a thing that's important to you?
Yeah, I do. I think mentoring is hugely and vastly important. Definitely to me. I think it should be important to a lot of people. I spend a lot of time as a technical trainer just coaching people, so the coaching aspect comes very naturally to me. And even outside of my role of bringing people into the company and teaching them, I will just turn around to a fellow, teammate across another department who wants to learn something more about what I'm doing or wants to learn a technical skill that they don't have under their belt. And I'll teach them. I can see how that, will turn around and benefit everybody. So why not? And I, like I said before, I love to help people sort of increase their skills because I can see how across the board that helps the entire company.
What kind of things do you do or read to help keep your skills up?
Oh, what do I read? So I there are some podcasts out there of I'm trying to think of the names, but definitely some tech podcasts that keep us in the know of what's happening in the industry. There's so many different categories underneath technology. So there's a lot to keep up with, but if you can find sort of the sector that's most interesting and relevant to you, there's always somebody out there in a podcast talking about the latest and greatest news, talking about what's up and coming around the bend, predicting what's the future of technology in that sector. So I try to keep up with the trends in that way, try to keep up with conversations, surround myself with other folks who are in the same field or you know, at least showing interest in that field so that I can keep up with what's happening in that space.
Oh, okay.
She's
So,
moved on from books to podcasts.
Yeah, I know.
I guess that's like a sign of the times.
yeah, podcasts are powerful. You guys
Yes.
know.
Sure. Okay.
I didn't know if there was anything Cassie wanted to say, leave anybody with some last, wise words.
Okay, wise words. I would say yes. Keep learning, learn broadly, learn everything there is that you want to learn. Don't hold back, but hold tight your boundaries and make sure you don't spread yourself too thin and just keep going.
Yeah. All right. That sounds pretty
Great.
good to me. Yeah.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much, Cassie, for joining us today.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Annie.
Kathy.
Thank you, Leanne.
Okay. So Cassie, she had a kind of a long title, but she's essentially a technical trainer.
Yeah, a technical trainer. Is basically a person who plans and administers programs that really help improve the skills of the internal employees. She's a translator. She translates how to understand the technology that they're using to be able to do their jobs better. I mean, it's similar the same way Beth Barak was a translator in her company, but they translate different things. So Cassie's translating more of an educational component in the sense of educating internal employees, whereas Beth, in her tech role, was actually translating across multiple departments on why and how a product was useful.
Since this is like, I just am thinking of the IT guys who are like, this is how you use it. Go ahead. Um, at places that I have worked. And it seems a little more nuanced than that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that it takes a person who can understand the tech side of it and be able to explain it to somebody who's not a techie.
Yes. I can understand why she got a master's degree,
Yeah.
but I guess you don't need it technically for this job, huh? Technically.
Te No, not technically, but,
Not tech.
but it helps because she came from an information science background, so she comes from more of an understanding of how the tech works, but that
Mm,
doesn't necessarily mean you know how to explain it to somebody else. So, to
yeah.
understand the other side of it, which is her customers are essentially salespeople, and, I mean, she also had to understand the business. How does that apply to the type of business she works in, which is a beverage distribution company, and it's different than her previous job, which she worked in insurance. So the terminology is different, what's important in terms of the objectives of the different companies. She needs to be able to understand that in order to help them do their jobs better.
And the pay is different too if you work for a tech company.
Oh yeah, it's much higher. But there's, different levels. I mean, you can start out as a specialist, but as a training specialist, you can make median pay is like 66,000, but average it's like the range is like 60 to 87, and then you can make up over $115,000 as a training specialist.
Yeah.
And that also depends on the industry, of course, and we did talk about IT. aerospace and energy utilities being much higher than that, or on the higher end of the spectrum. And then for a training manager, the median pay jumps significantly to 127,000. So if you're managing a group of people who do this, you make significantly more.
Much better. And also, this is one of the few jobs that we've seen, like, really good growth.
Yeah, it's huge growth. I mean, it's 11% over the next 10 years. I mean, that's significant. And
Yeah.
that's just on the technical specialist side. But on the manager side too, there's a 6% increase. So there's definitely going to be opportunity for people to help explain how to use stuff. I mean, we even talked about AI, and it's a continuing hot topic. But AI in particular, I think, the people who are going to survive in business are going to be the people who understand how to use it.
Yes. And so, as far as what personality type fits this job best, it seems like it's kind of varied.
It does vary because I think the commonalities of the person who has a job like this is gotta be somebody who's structured in their thinking. They have to be very systems oriented. They have to be about outcomes. I mean, you have to, like, show that you're getting results. And then importantly, I think it's being able to translate that complexity of, what the tools are supposed to provide and into some sort of action. So, it could be somebody who's extrovert or introverted. That doesn't I don't think that really makes a difference. It's about how you approach, how you communicate the information. Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcasts.